Good morning, my urban gardeners. It's currently about 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and I decided that this would be a great opportunity to share with you my morning garden routine. Come plant with me. First thing I like to do is come check the progress of all of my container plants. Yes, I do raised bed gardens, and I also do container plants as well. And we've been getting a lot of rain in the Dallas Fort Worth area. As you can see, those were my strawberries, and this is some butterhead lettuce that I've been growing in a small pot. Uh, Looks like I need to separate these guys a little bit, but they've been doing well. But first thing I like to do is come check all of my containers and see what their progress is. This is my basil. It's actually bolting pretty well. I've propagated like 20 or 30 times off of this plant because basil, as I've said in previous videos, is a great plant to place with your tomatoes for companion planting. It keeps a lot of bugs away that plague the tomato plant. And as you can see, these are two tomatoes that my children are growing. They are doing fantastic in these two containers. They're doing so well that I propagated a third tomato plant off the initial. It's going to be this one right here. Now I do have a downturned branch right here, and some of my flowers are facing down, and I think that's just because we've been getting too much water from all of this rain that we've been having. Right next to this third tomato plant here, I do have some lemon creeping thyme that I picked up from my local Atwoods. It's doing fantastically well. It also has bug repellent or pest repellent properties as well. That fragrant lemon smell keeps a lot of your bugs away. I wish you could smell it. It smells amazing. And one of the things I love to do in the morning is just come out and rub my fingers through the lemon thyme and then smell my fingers. I also have other propagations and other plants going here as well. Here is, and we have some mushrooms growing up in there because of all the rain that I told you we've been getting in my, this is chocolate mint here. We have an Ozark strawberry. It's struggling a little bit. It's producing a little bit of berries here, but I think this needs to be repotted, and the soil is a little compacted down in there. Next to it, I do have some more Eversweet strawberries. As you can tell, I have a lot of strawberries around here, and I got some weeds coming up in there I need to pull. Over here are starts from some more creeping thyme. This is going to be my red creeping thyme here. As you can see, those little seedlings are coming up through the soil. The only downfall, this is not potting soil that I've used in this mix. This is actually more of a vegetable mix, and I think that's why the my creeping thyme is kind of struggling to get through all of that wood. Honestly, I should have used a little bit more of a potting mix, but it was a pinch. I just threw some dirt in a pot and see what came up. As you can see, because of its invasive property, it's not really struggling too much to come up. It's coming up, but it'll get there eventually. And then these are some starts here for some more tomato plants. Now, unfortunately, here in my growing zone, it is a little late to be transferring these into the soil because we're approaching that really drastic Texas heat. But we're still going to see if we can get these going and maybe eventually put these in a greenhouse so I can have these going throughout the winter. And again, more mushrooms coming up because of all that rain we've been getting. Now, right above, we have our mint tower. Mint tower is still doing fantastically well with our chocolate mint at the top, our spearmint, and then our sweet mint, all growing harmoniously together, and it's stackable. If you haven't seen that video on how I constructed the mint tower, I'm going to put that post right up here so that you can check this out, or check it out, so to speak. Up top, we have some more of our pine berry strawberries, and this one, once again, one more mushroom. We have some runners that have been propagating here. They're struggling a little bit, but they're coming along. And we have a nice slew of berries right over here on the side. Now, I like placing the strawberries in containers because they do really well in containers, but it's good because it helps me with bug management, pest management. More of our strawberry plants. This is unfortunately, as I said in my previous video, a lot of gardeners don't show their fails, but this unfortunately is a grape propagation fail. I cut this off of the main plant and you'll see the grape plant here in a moment, but unfortunately this failed, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm going to keep propagating, keep growing, but a lot of gardeners don't show you when they have their fails. It happens. It's just part of the job. And this is a propagation that fell off. This is peppermint actually. It fell off with the last rain. It got knocked off the main plant, so I just stuck it in some water and see if it'll root. And as you can see, it is rooting. More strawberries, and oh, over here, this is pineapple sage, another great herb to have in your garden because when you run your fingers through it, it has a nice sweet smell to it as well. I had some flowers coming up here on the top, some really nice red uh, flowers that started on the top, but the rain of course have knocked those flowers off. But hopefully those flowers produce seeds which will give me more plants in this pot. Now down here at the bottom, right on the side of all of these starters, I have even more strawberries. Told you I like strawberries. My kids love them here, so I make sure I grow them for them. But this is what the pine berry is going to look like. Let's see if we can zoom in there. This is a perfect example of a pine berry. It's more of a pinker color. And now it's funny because I've been growing all these berries and have yet to actually taste one because my kids have been gobbling them up. But it's supposed to have a nice pineapple-y taste to it. So it's going to be a little bit tartar than maybe your traditional red strawberry. Over here at my staging table, I need to clean this mess up a little bit, but it is what it is. This, both of these are actually suckers that were growing off of my main majestic peach plant. Excuse me, a majestic peach tree. Now, I saw this sucker growing off of the main tree, so I decided, I saw both of these and I said, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and cut them, see if I can propagate them, make new peach trees, right? Now, this one is actually doing fantastically well. It had a few leaves that I trimmed off that were browning a little bit, but it's doing pretty good. It looks like it's rooted pretty well. This one, not so much. So we got a 50% propagation rate going on here, but that's the nature of the beast, right? Over here to the side, mind you, some of my random soil. Here we are. These are actually two seed propagations off of a pink lady apple tree. It was funny because it was actually the seeds were germinating inside of the apple tree, excuse me, inside of the apple itself. And my wife said, hey, stick them in soil, see if you can get them to germinate. Now, that being said, they were already germinating, so I put them in some soil, and we have little young uh, pink lady apple trees, seedlings, starting right here. Now, the only thing about it is I don't know if it's going to produce apples. Now, granted, both of them are from pink ladies, so hopefully, since I have two pink ladies, if they do start flowering and eventually growing, maybe they can pollinate one another and I definitely get pink ladies. But as I stated in one of my previous apple videos, you have to have a pair when you have apples or because they don't self-pollinate. So since I have two pink ladies, hopefully I can actually grow pink lady apple trees out of both of them. And over here we have our banana plants. We have new leaf starting here. The rain has kind of beat up some of these leaves. I'm going to see if this one can make it through. If not, I might have to go ahead and trim this leaf because the rain beat it up so bad. And then our Swiss chard down here that I just recently did a harvest off of, and our other banana tree as well. Now over here I have one of my peppermint propagations. Uh, in one of the storms that we had a couple of days ago, this pot had gotten knocked completely off the rail and it was toppled over. So what I did is just picked it back up, put it back in the soil, and it seems to be doing fine even despite being knocked over. Right next to it, I just have some wildflowers that I'm growing there for pollinators. Underneath, this is our original sweet mint. This sweet mint was purchased a year ago. It was struggling. It was purchased at one of my big box stores. It was struggling. It was almost dead. In all earnest, I don't think they even should have sold it to me because of how bad it was. But brought it back to life. It has been flourishing, and I've propagated this plant into this whole second one here. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and I cut 18 cuttings off of this plant to give out to teachers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, just to show my appreciation for all they do for teaching our youth. Over here, I do have 2 thriving rosemaries and 1 dead rosemary right there in the center. I tried to save this one. I tried to repot it, but looks like it just didn't make it. I tried my best to save it, but I got 2 that are doing really well right here. Uh, Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I used this rosemary in a salmon dish. I grilled some salmon on my grill, and I just cut up the fresh rosemary. Had my son pick some rosemary for me, and I diced it up and placed it right on the salmon as I was cooking it, and it came out so good, so savory. Oh, look. But these are the daylilies that I planted, what, about 2 or 3 months ago. They're coming up nice. I do have these 2 right next to each other. Probably needs to be separated, but I'm not gonna mess with them. I'm gonna just see how they do in this pot, in this container as well. And after we look at all our container plants, now we come out to our raised beds. This is a raised bed that I made completely out of scrap because I had all these potatoes I knew I wanted to get in the ground, and I needed to get a good place that gets a lot of sun. This area in my yard gets a lot of sun. I needed something to get 6 to 8 hours. So boom, went ahead, threw this together with some scrap wood that I had around, had some seeding potatoes, and as we can see, these potatoes are all rising to the occasion. And now what I did is these potatoes are planted actually all the way down on this row right down here. I placed the potatoes in the ground, allowed them to get a good footing, start rooting, start seeding, and so forth. And then I added another row to it to heal the potatoes. And when I added that next row, they kept on going. I think I want to add one more row to it because I should get a nice quantity of potatoes out of here because they have so much square footage to be able to grow. With that being said, on the side is my other potato box as well. So I have 2 potato boxes right next to each other. So hopefully in about 2, 3 months, I should see a nice quantity of some nice potatoes. I have russets in there as well as yellow potatoes. I wish I could have got my hands on some red potatoes this season, but with everything I'm growing, I think this is good enough for now. And that every gardener's plight, like, yeah, for now, right? All right, now over here is my main 10 by 10 box. In the 10 by 10, I have some onions that need to be harvested up. I've been cutting off the green onions off of the top, using them for different dishes. And so these were started back in the fall, but looks like they need to go ahead and be pulled up because, as you can see, you're starting to have them flop over here and starting to wilt at the ends. So I think the onion underneath actually probably needs to be pulled up, excuse me, and taken a look at. And then this is our row of tomato, basil, tomato, bell pepper. And I believe this is my California Wonder. So that should be a nice yellow bell pepper. And then here we have some more. I believe this is my Better Boy tomato. And then right next to we have our Purple Beauty, which is going to have a nice purple sweet bell pepper that's going to produce there. Then following up, we have our grapevine. Now I do just have just the one grapevine, but I eventually want to, I'm allowing it to actually naturally trellis up. I've been assisting it a little bit, putting a little zip ties in certain places where I want it to travel. But eventually I want to get a cutting off of this grapevine, like I told you before, so that I can have a second one growing up on the side here. I got a weed over there that I need to pull, but I want to have 2 grapevines so that they can add with the pollination for both, so that we can actually get grapes. Usually with grapes, it takes about 2 to 3 years before you see your flowers and before you see your fruiting. But I want to get a second one to aid and assist in that. Now, on the other side of the box, continuing on with our trio, I have bell peppers here. This is a red beauty that's coming up here. We have, I believe this might be our spoon tomatoes. as you can see from these little bitty flowers, the spoon tomato is supposed to produce this little bitty tiny tomato that's smaller than like your red robin, smaller than your grape tomatoes, but it's going to be little cute tomatoes that's supposed to come about it. So it's already flowering, so it's doing good. It's because it's companion planted with the peppers and the basil, it's producing pretty well, not producing yet, but it's growing pretty good. Eventually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run up some fishing line to make an invisible trellis for it to climb upward. And then this bell pepper here, I believe this is just a regular green bell pepper. Right next to, we have another tomato plant and basil right on the side. And then look, we actually have a bell pepper coming in here. I didn't even know this guy was coming. Look at him. Wow, that's a morning surprise. Hey, look at you. And then, of course, following up with more basil and another tomato plant. So companion planting is very something I really focus on. But what I want to show you next is my sunflowers. So my sunflowers, as you can see, this one was leaning over something terrible. The rain just kept beating it down and it just couldn't get that upward momentum that it needed. So what I did is end up just taking a stick and kind of helping it and staking it so that it can stand up straight. And as you can see, that's why you have the bruising and the purpling here in the stem, because it was struggling to try to stand itself up. Now I'm gonna probably end up getting a bigger stake so that I can stand it up even taller, because as you can see, it's leaning over. But if you look right next to it, its brother, it's actually standing up perfectly fine. Now, as you can see, I did prune back some leaves here because yesterday I noticed I had some browning in the leaves from overwatering. Now, that's not me overwatering, that's nature overwatering. It's been raining a lot in the last week and a half or so. And so all that rain has been causing a little bit of a fungal outbreak. So I didn't want that fungal outbreak to spread to the rest of the plant. So I went ahead and just clipped it. But this is my row of sunflowers here. I had a failed plant there, and then a failed plant there as well. And then this one actually seems to be thriving. Now you can see, just like I was talking about with the purpling of the root of the stem, we got that purple discoloration here, but this whole whole stem was actually all purple just from that stress from it trying to stand up. Looks like I got a little bit of ants going on here, so I'm gonna put some cinnamon in the garden to drive off those ants. But yeah, so now since I've staked it up, the purple discoloration is kind of almost dissipated, but it's still down here, down at the bottom. So I'm gonna probably try to stake this better a little bit later. And now back here behind the sunflowers is my row of cabbage. Now the reason why I have that screen on this cabbage is because I want to prevent uh, caterpillars. That's honestly what it is. And caterpillars and snails, because as you can see on this mesh, it's doing its job because there's a snail right there. That rain has drove them up, and then of course we have a roly-poly right next to it. You can see that plant behind it was getting torn up by all the caterpillars. So I put this mesh, I put this screen over it just to protect. Now its brother right next to it. Interesting thing about this plant, I grew this from a grocery store cabbage. I did a couple of months ago. You might have seen it in some of my shorts, or if you haven't, go check those out. But I started it indoors from a stem from a grocery store cabbage, and I put it in a pot. It started flourishing, so I brought it out here to the main garden. And that was actually back this winter. Now behind it, I have a couple of more onions that are growing here. Some more onions growing on here. I have a sweet what is it? Red meat, a red. What is this thing? A red meat watermelon growing right here. Now, next to all of this in a 10 by 10 is my strawberry pyramid. So, strawberry pyramid is still thriving, still doing good. I got a lot of flowering going on, but I do have a little bit of an infestation of the roly-polies or the pill bugs, whatever you might call them. So, I need to dry them off because, and I got a little discoloration going on here. So with that discoloration, that means it's a little bit, the strawberries are having a little bit of a problem with drainage. And honestly, I think that's because of all this rain that I told you we've been getting. Look at all those roly-polies there. Now, a little bit of roly-polies is good in the garden. Oh, we got a new strawberry. There we go. A little bit of roly-polies or pill bugs is good in the garden. But in this situation, it's an infestation. It's too many. Now, here is our salad box. Really proud of our salad box. This was actually built and planted by myself and my children. On the salad box, on the sides, we have summer squash that's growing here. We have our cucumbers that are growing here that are eventually going to trellis up this PVC and chicken wire tower that I've built. We have our butterhead lettuce going right here on the side as well. And then I just recently got donated some green comet broccoli, and I placed that right on the side. All of these actually should companion plant really well. Like I've stated in a previous video, the cucumber, once it trellises up, it's going to provide shade for this lettuce, because this lettuce is actually a shade-loving, cooler plant. So it prefers to be cooled off. It doesn't like that Texas direct heat. So, but like I said, I've talked about that in a previous video. In the back row back here, we have some red beans that are growing here, and I got some weeds I need to pull back here. Oh, and then our compost bin. So this is vermicompost. It's directly in the box. I just put my compost directly in it, and the worms send the nutrients and its worm castings out throughout the rest of the box. So this, as you can see, has holes in it so the worms can crawl in and out. Right in front here, these are actually just some wildflowers that I planted these wildflowers just to increase the amount of pollinators that'll come through and pollinate our plants, like our cucumbers, squash, and then of course on the other side here are Tommy apple melons. Now these Tommy apple melons is also a vining melon plant too. It's going to vine up as well, and honestly I can't wait to see what that looks like when I have cucumbers hanging down and the Tommy apple melons hanging down. I think it's going to make an awesome, it's going to have an awesome look to the garden. Now over here with the Tommy apple melons, I have spinach that my kids and I, we've planted into the soil. And then on the opposite side, I have, let's see, I have some snow crown cauliflower, 3 of those going right here. And then my son, who's 4 years old, his love for symmetry, he wanted more squash on the outside. So the whole entire salad box is actually bordered by squash plants. And hopefully I can get those squash, I can start staking them up so that they grow vertically as well. So typically this is what I do every morning. Oh, and I almost forgot to share with you, this is a new row that I just placed in. This is a combination of corn, squash, and then I have some beans coming up as well. Those bean sprouts are coming along somewhere. Oh wait, here's one. These beans and corn and squash are all grown together in companion style planting. It's called the Three Sisters method. My wife was recently researching it, so she wanted to see if I could grow the Three Sisters method for her. So I just threw this together to kind of see what would happen, and I'm happy with the corn. The corn's already coming up, and these are all grown from seeds. And right behind it, I have a couple of other struggling plants. A black diamond watermelon, I think I need to repot that. And this is a sunflower that has been struggling severely. But look at that, it's already got a flower on it. So gang, that's it. That's my morning routine. Every morning I come out and check my plants. I check for any fungal issues. I check for growth, flowering, and see if there's anything that I need to address. Like I said, we've been getting all this rain recently, which a lot of the garden has been liking it, but now it's getting kind of excessive. So that's what I do every morning. It's part of my morning routine, so it's not really something I have to think about. I mean, after I drink my coffee and put my dog out for the morning, this is just something that I do. I hope this gives you some garden inspiration and something that you want to do in your garden. If you found this information helpful or beneficial, why not share it to a friend? Or not share it to a friend, share it with a friend, and maybe giving me a like button. Uh, if you have any thoughts, questions, or comments, make sure you put me something down in the comments line so I can respond back to you. This has been Urban Gardening with Gray. Enjoy life. Now, look, my rooster, Ike has been sounding off back there. So enjoy life, enjoy family, and enjoy your garden. Thanks for watching, guys.